Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another department. No, it's not that. It's my other show. Sheesh. Big hearing you. It's a department of conversation.
Forgot where you were.
Forgot where I was for a second. I got all kerfuffled and kerfluckled because I was just looking at something chewy. I'll share this with you. This will probably resonate with you and yours, but something to do with perhaps a bit of our lineage. There is a thing in Ireland called Redhead Day. And
oh, yes, I'm familiar.
They have redhead festivals. And yes, someone sent me a photo of the redhead
that on a cloudy day.
Festival. Well, look, there's lots of shade. They're between the buildings. So there's lots of shade going on there. So there you go. Hi, man.
It does remind me of another festival that I saw, which was a golden retriever festival. I don't know why those two things are linked, but just reminds me a lot.
So tonight we're pretty much focusing on one thing. There'll be probably some bits and bobs thrown in there along the way, but having a look at, we've been waiting for, it feels like a year. It's probably 6, 7, 8 months for National to tell us how they're going to pay for all these promises. And we found out today, and it's quite in depth and there's quite a lot of information. So we're going to spend a fair bit of time looking over it tonight. And we want your input. And we want your thoughts around this. I can see it happening already in the chat.
There are some thoughts.
And at about 9:30, Bomber's going to jump in as well. So we're going to do kind of all the dog work, the dog's body, the hard work now, the hard mahi, and play some clips and look at what the media is saying and try and get our head around what the story is. And then Bomber's going to jump in and join us to have a chat about it. And hopefully I've already given him a heads up, but hopefully we will also have a chat to Bomber about the debate last night, get his thoughts on RAF and what he thinks about top. So just while he's here, we might have a chat about that. But before we do, let me just say to you very, very quickly, my whānau, is that as you can see going across the bottom of the screen, our promo code for tonight, I wonder why, is $10 a week. It's the promo code for tonight, $10 a week. And I think you have to do the dollar sign. So $10 a week is the promo code. The merch drop this time around, we're not waiting till the end of the 2 or 3 weeks and then doing one big one. We're going to do one every week because we know that some people want these if the left vote, the left wins tops before the election. So in 24 or 25 hours from now, at the end of tomorrow night's show, I'll be putting the first order through to the printers. So if you're interested in getting some merch, there is some BHN merch there, and there is some of the more political stuff there about if the left votes, the left wins. If you order that during the show using the promo code, tonight's promo code is $10 a week. That promo code is only active until 10:30. Then you will get free delivery. Otherwise, it's all there. You can go and order it. And if you want to get it sent out to you next week, it needs to be ordered by the end of tomorrow night's show. So you've got kind of 24 hours. And in this next hour and a half, you get free delivery if you use the promo code $10 a week. That promo code is only available whilst the show is live streaming. So if you're watching this tomorrow, I'm sorry, you'll have to come back tonight at 9 p.m., which will be tonight, and get tonight's promo code. Does it make sense, Trey?
No.
Okay, good. All right, now look, because Bomber's coming to join us at 9:30, we're going to get into this because what will happen with me and you two is we'll just start chatting about stuff, and then all of a sudden it'll be 28 past, and we won't have started. So let's have a look, and we're going to use One News and News Hub as a place to get a bunch of information from. They've done a pretty good job reporting on this today. Here is the story from One News tonight, the headline story about what's happening with the national tax policies today.
More money in your pocket. That's National's promise with its new tax policy and what it hopes is a winning election strategy. But Labor's dismissing it as a fantasy plan. Let's break it down. Under National, the party says an average income household with kids would get a $250 increase per fortnight.
Okay, so I'm furious that the mainstream media is selling National Party talking points.
Yep.
The mainstream media is talking about what you're getting a fortnight. Now, let's be very clear. What this has done, right? This has gone a working couple at $50 a week, which is hard to get to actually. It's more like 40, right? As Nicola Willis tells us later on, it's $40 a week. So a working couple at $40 a week, add in there some new tax credits, because if you've got kids, get to $125, double it, and say, look, it's $250 a fortnight. The minimum wage people, which we'll see at the moment, are getting $20 a fortnight. Why is the media not saying it's $10 a week? Why is the media picking up on the National Party narrative and helping them make it sound better than it is? TVNZ did it and TV3 did it. They did the fortnight thing. The National's been very clever here. They've taken all of their amounts, they've doubled them to make them look more impressive, and then they said a fortnight. I don't know why the fuck they didn't say $500 a month. That would have been even better still, but they decided fortnight is the way to go. And I'm ropeable with the mainstream media that they're just helping the National Party further this conversation, which may be accurate, but they're using some very clever narratives to make it look more impressive than it really is. Remember, be aware though, and we can see this later on in some stuff I show you, they're saying up to $250. That doesn't come out very much in the mainstream media either.
That's an old marketing trick, that is.
Yeah, of course. Based on a true story. So I'm really annoyed that everyone's talking about it this in fortnight terms, because what it's doing is helping Nationals sell the narrative that their tax cuts are bigger than they are. We'll just play what they are first of all, then I'll say one more thing about the retirees.
An average household with no kids, an additional $100, and a superannuitant couple up to $26 a fortnight.
So think about it this way: that superannuitant couple, that's $26 a fortnight. That's for two people. That's $13 a week. That's $6.50 per person per week. So National's done well in their positioning by saying it's $26 a fortnight. If I was to say it's $6.50 per person per week, you'd be like, well, that's fucking nothing. Who cares about that? And I'm annoyed that no one's really, well, I can't say no one. I haven't seen anyone pointing it out yet. Retirees, you're getting $6 each a week. Yet mainstream media is just picking up and running with how National has sold this. So they're helping their narrative. I'm not saying it's inaccurate. I'm just saying they're helping them make it sound more impressive and larger than it really is.
Looking at individuals, a median income full-time worker, National says on 60,000 would receive a $50 boost per fortnight, and a full-time minimum wage worker, $20.
$10 a week.
It expects to deliver this with a combination of measures, including shifting tax brackets and expanding tax credits to reach more modest earners. The cost, $14.6 billion over 4 years. For analysis on how it's going to be paid for and how the announcement hit with 6 weeks until voting day, we'll be joined shortly by political editor Jessica Mackay. First, her report.
It's the biggest test in their audition to run the country, starting with something new.
Yeah, interesting, eh?
Yeah. Pitching a back pocket boost
for people who are new to us tonight or are joining us. We've been saying for a long time, Luxon keeps on telling us, I'm studying today, I like today. You never hear him saying it. So Jess is right. This is completely new. I wonder if it's, the PR company has said, or I wonder if they've just made the decision. I like it. Credit where credit's due. It is new. It is new today. Because I'll tell you what, some of his voters won't like it.
This middle is being left behind.
So do these Kiwis feel squeezed?
I think everybody is, aren't they? Cost of living, food prices.
I'm a pensioner and
I'm just making means meet.
Yeah, I think everyone pretty much is in the same position though, right?
I think every little bit helps with the cost of living increases and inflation and food prices going up.
You talk about...
I just want to say this as well. Chewy, I'm sorry. I know I'm dominating this, but we're trying to get through these videos. I remember when I was doing Talkback, right? And there was an opportunity for us to get a $10 a week tax cut. I disagree with that person that every little bit helps, because what you have to realize is what you're giving up to get. Back then, $10 a week tax cut was $1 billion out of our coffers. Now, I wasn't wealthier, and I probably was the squeezed middle. That's probably what I would have been back then. But I was of the opinion then, actually, my $10 a week to me does very little, but my $10 a week into the storehouse, into the coffers, up to $1 billion, that does quite a lot for the country. So it's really important for us to remember what we're giving up for what we're getting as well. pensioners, your $6.50 that you're getting, what are we giving up, i.e. what comes out of the coffers that could be paying for other things to help the whole country? I'm not saying that you don't deserve your $6.50 pensioners, but, you know, and even your minimum wage workers, you're getting $10 a week. Minimum wage is about $22 an hour. So that's what, 22 times 40, 22 times 7 would be 2. So it's about $900 a week. So $900 a week before tax. Let's call that $650 after tax. Now you're getting $660. So minimum wage from $650 to $660. That extra $10, is that going to do a lot more for you, or that extra $10 from all the workers making $1 or $2 billion in our coffers? Would that be better for our country? Would it be better roads in your area? You know what I'm saying? So it's not just anything's worth it. It's not, because there's always a payoff. We take money out of the bank to buy something, we have less money in the bank for other things. That's all I'm saying, Chewy. I'm sorry, I have to give you a chance to reply, and I'm going off already. What are your thoughts?
Well, exactly. I think anytime anybody says, hey, look, there's tax cuts, you go, cool, what is it going to cost me? You know, as you said, the pensioners get in $6 a week extra, but they have to spend more than that on bus fares now, or on doctor's appointments, or because of their big public service cuts. Is it going to take them longer to have issues processed, or to see a doctor, or to get their medical records or their results back? All of these things.
Yeah,
I'm always suspicious of anybody that says that there's a tax cut, which is why when the Greens announced theirs and they said, here's our sums, we've done our homework, and everybody kind of glossed over it in a week, I'm much more accepting of that. But yeah, what are they cut, Pat? Tell me what they cut.
Well, we'll get to that. We're actually Jenna Lynch does a little 2-minute. We're not going to watch the whole of the News Hub clip. We're playing about a 2-minute clip out of it, which what she's talking about. What's the new stuff and what's the cuts?
About the squeeze middle. Are you leaving low-income families behind?
Yes,
absolutely not. I mean, as you can see, you know, full-time minimum wage workers are going to get $20 a fortnight of relief.
$10 a week.
$20 more that they would get under National than Labor. It's certainly a lot
Except
more
we're putting
than 2
GST
cents
back on
some
fruit and
carrots
veg.
some beans.
I think when New Zealanders scratch below the surface, they're going to see that many families will actually be worse off under National's plan.
National's tax cuts will cost $14.6 billion over 4 years. It's planning to pay for them with $8.5 billion in savings over 4 years. For example, taking $2 billion from the public service and ditching contractors. It will also collect $6.2 billion in new revenue, for example, collecting $3 billion in a foreign buyer tax. National plans to let foreign buyers buy homes here. They'll need to cost over $2 million, and they'll pay a 15% tax.
And just remember, the average house price in Auckland is $1 million. The average house price in Queenstown is about $1 million. So a $2 million house, for many of us, maybe even for all of us watching, maybe not, but for many of us is outside what we can do. But a $2 million is only double the average house price in Auckland. And remember, there'll be some above and some below. And I have to tell you, it's hard to find a $700,000 or $800,000 house in Auckland. So it's not going to be the mean, that's for sure. It's the average. It's not going to be the middle house price. It's going to be the average house price.
At first blush, I don't hate that. Like, I don't think that's a terrible idea.
Although they're already getting in trouble thinking we have some arrangements with many countries about tax, and they might have to change it from a 15% tax to a 15% fee or levy, because we have a reciprocal thing going on. So there's still questions to come on this.
Similar to what's done in Sydney and Vancouver. Looking at
two of the most expensive cities in the world to buy real estate. Maybe that's a contributing factor. Maybe.
Trade Me today, $2 million in Auckland isn't sprawling mansion material.
Aren't you just putting more and more pressure on the Auckland market?
No, we don't think so. Look, our modelling assumes fewer than 2,000 transactions will occur as a result of this tax.
It's a voodoo plan. It's a fantasy plan. It doesn't add up. And National do have a track record here from the last election. It's possible for politicians to promise anything you like.
National also wants to allow landlords to claim back interest with the hope those savings will be passed on to renters.
The hope. The hope.
It's going to help existing property owners keep rents low. It's going to be far beneficial for the tenants.
National says there's no borrowing and these tax cuts won't add to inflation.
Well, they will.
The leaders are in for
They can't not, because what inflation is when there's more money in the economy, right, than what there is products to buy. If you flood the money of the economy with money, it drives things up. It drives inflation. So giving people more money will absolutely add to inflation. Now, that's not to say Labor's got the answer to that right now, but to say it won't is ridiculous. If you give people more money and they spend more money, that drives that circle of supply and demand, which drives what inflation is.
For a boost too.
What are both of you getting out of this
This
policy?
made me angry.
In our family, there's 2 income earners. We'll get $80 more a fortnight. And kids, that means that instead of movie night being DVDs and tip-top at home, we might go out to the movies.
Okay. So with the greatest respect, fuck you, man. Nicola Willis is on a base salary of $206,000. Base salary.
Those numbers didn't sound right to me.
So she will, and her husband, who was on the board of a group, will easily, obviously, be in a 6-figure salary as well. Their household will easily bring in $300K plus per year. And she thinks $80 a week is going, finally, we'll be able to go to the movies with our kids when their household will be at least bringing in $300K a year, considering she's 206 minimum at the moment. This whole trying to make yourself relatable, you can also make yourself look so disingenuous. And this just makes me mad. You're on $206,000 even without a partner or anything else. You're not struggling to take the kids to the movie once a week. Trust me.
That was cosplay.
Yeah,
look at me. I'm average New Zealand. I'm the mum of 2, and I've got a golden retriever, and we go to the movies every now and then.
Yeah,
bullshit
we call it.
Ben and Jerry's.
National hoping it's a sweetener for undecided voters.
We'll bring in Jess. Jess, one of the major changes here is lifting the foreign buying ban. Why is that a big move?
Well, for some people, the idea of selling property to overseas buyers doesn't sit comfortably, and Labor will be able to play on that. Labor's also had a crack at National's numbers late this afternoon, saying it just won't bring in as much money as National is saying. And they say that's because of tax treaties that we have with a number of countries. It says there's huge groups of countries that 15% tax just won't apply to. Now, National have come back with a response in the last couple of minutes and said, look, Australia and Singapore are already exempt because of trade deals. They've already said that today, but they say when it comes to tax treaties, there are ways to work around that, and they are aware of that situation. The other rebuttal for National is that this foreign buyer ban was an idea from Labor to try and cool the housing market, and National says that just hasn't worked.
So National says the housing market hasn't cooled, although housing prices have dropped by 20%. How is the housing market not cooled? Like, if that's your claim, at least give us the metric for how it has not cooled. Now, Chewy, I'm going to play 2 minutes of this, and then we'll take the first pause. I'm just being aware that in about 12, 13 minutes, Bomber will be with us as well. We're not going to talk about housing stuff now, because that's one of the things I want to talk to him about. But there's quite a good little 90-second bit here from Jenna Lynch where she says what has been cut, or what will be cut, and what will be new. So have a listen to this.
Done the work cutting and taxing. On the cut side, government contractors, 20 hours free ECE for 2-year-olds, and half-price public transport gone.
We prefer to give people the money direct into their bank account.
$2.4 billion has been raided from the Climate Fund, while $2.1 billion will be spent on tax cuts for landlords, reversing the interest deductibility rules.
It's effectively trading off children's futures for money for landlords.
And here come the taxes, reinstating a tax on commercial buildings, a tax on online gambling. Migrants will be taxed more for visa processing.
It will have a major impact on our ability to get nurses, doctors, teachers, IT specialists who we all need.
Is this basically a talent tax?
Absolutely not.
But here's the biggie. Foreign house buyers are allowed back, but they'll have to pay a tax for the pleasure. National expects that to net nearly $3 billion.
I believe that this is fantasy money.
I've been validated and I am highly confident.
Confidence radiating. Nicola Willis nearly getting a little ahead of herself.
National is the party of responsible economic management.
It's not the Labor Party's endorsement she's looking for.
Yeah, I think it would kind of help me vote for them.
It's mums like this.
Political. There we go. That's what I'm going to show you about that. True. There's a couple of other things I want to. One other thing I want to play is actually about the actual foreign house thing. What it's got to say. But let's jump into anything that's coming in. I'm going to hold my thoughts around the housing stuff until we get Bomber. But if there's chat going on right now, especially the idea around what's been said, what's going, what's staying, have at it.
Yeah. Look, I think there's a couple of nuggets that should be mentioned here. I think taxing overseas gambling websites, sure, that's a no-brainer.
Fine.
Commercial property as well, yes.
What does it mean though? I mean, I don't even know what that means yet, because all they said, because I watched them at the press conference, they just blew past it. They didn't actually give any details.
Yeah.
I'm not anti the idea. I want to know the details.
Yeah, absolutely, and it could very much be. We know this will play with the majority of people. We don't need to go into details, but yeah, again, we come back to the interest deductibility on landlords and stuff like that. Look, if it's an investment property, investment has risk. Essentially, you're operating a business. Business has costs. They have compliance costs. This carve out for landlords to remove all of their risk and all of their costs, because it seems it depends on whether you're asking them whether it's a business or an investment, or suddenly if you change the conversation, but I'm providing a service. It's one or the other. Like pick one, because at the rents that they're charging, it's not a service. It's definitely a business. And
yes,
all investments have risk. It's insane. Anyway, we've got a couple of comments. Simple Reality here has done some sums. National tax plan costs $8.4 billion, but they're only going to bring in $6.2 billion in new revenue. This leaves a shortfall of $2.2 billion. Their transport plan had a shortfall of $4.8 billion. So far, we're up to a $7 billion deficit.
Well, the other thing is that they have said one of the ways they're going to do it is from savings. They've talked about, was it $2 billion from the public sector, including consultants? Now, I got to tell you this. I don't know if you're like me, but when you phone a government agency now and you have to spend an hour and a half on the phone waiting to get through, imagine they remove $2 billion worth of backroom stuff, because that's what they're talking about. They're not talking about front room. They're talking about the people that deal with the stuff that go to the front room. So if you think about like a back-end support group that gives support to the frontline workers. If that back-end support group is decimated and now has one person rather than 10, how is that going to impact the frontline support? It could actually be very impacting. So we need, again, more details. We need to know who's going, why are they going, what is the ability for us to get part. We need to hear this, and we need to, like, they've given top line details. I want more. But overall, I mean, I won't even say it's any worse than what we got right now, but they're trying to sell it as better. That's one of the things I'm frustrated with. They're trying to sell it as this is the answer. And it seems to me they're going, here, have $10 a week. By the way, your childcare is going to cost you another $35 a week. Here, have $6.70. By the way, no longer get this free thing here that's going to cost you $9 a week. So it doesn't feel like it's any better. It feels like they're ticking a box to say what they said they were going to do. And they've juggled a few things around. A lot to do. I'm struggling to hold my tongue on the housing one, because there's some numbers in the housing one, the foreign buyers, which is like, I mean, like, here's something for you that we'll talk about in a bit. But the headline is there was about 4,000 to 4,500 houses last year sold over $2 million. So that means they've budgeted for half of those to be sold to foreign investors or foreign purchasers. What happens to those other 2,500 sales? Oh, I can't do it because we're going to talk about it soon, but they'll all drop down a level. It's basically trickle down economics, but in housing market, that the people who missed that house will then drop down, who will drop down, who will drop down, who will drop down, who will impact first-time home buyers. I'm not talking about it yet.
Here's my other thing, right? We've got two major parties that have put forward a platform of major tax cuts, right? Let's see the comparison side by side. I want someone to put those together. You know, National's promising this for this specific imaginary family. What does that look like over in Greens? How is National paying for this? How is Greens paying for it? And I think that would show whose numbers are better.
Yeah. There's an article on Stuff which I looked at. I haven't put it for tonight. That says who would be better under the tax cuts. But I'm not looking at that right this very second. What we are going to do is have a little bit of a look at also what they're doing with transport right now. And we're also going to have a look at how some of the opposition parties have responded to it. And then we'll probably have Bomber, and then we'll get into the housing one as well. So here's another story from TVNZ tonight.
Subsidised public transport for young people is also set to go under National's plan. National calling that policy badly designed from the start. But their replacement plans are under fire, with minor parties, including potential coalition partners, lining up to critique today's announcement.
But don't worry, they'll have an extra $3 a week.
National wants to put the brakes on free and half-price public transport, leaving children, young adults and low-income earners out in the cold.
I think that's not a great idea. Like, we use public transport all the time.
Yeah, especially for students.
Yeah.
Like, that's their main mode of transport.
I'll probably just walk, even though it's really far. Yeah.
It's one of the ways the party will fund its tax cuts, and it includes taking over $2 billion in revenue.
So this is what we're saying, right? When we say that, yeah, any amount of money in my pocket's a good thing. No, because we lose things for it. Even if you don't use, I don't use public transport, right? But lots of people do, and lots of people use it as a way to get around because they can't afford fuel or whatever. And you lose that. So it's not just unless you're completely selfish and all you think about is your own back pocket, it can make society worse, which will affect you eventually. It can make economics and the economy worse, which will affect you immediately. It might not affect you on day one, but if it makes it harder for everybody else, it eventually will trickle down to affect you.
From the emissions trading scheme.
The Climate Emergency Response Fund at the moment funds the entire walking and cycling budget of the transport budget. So that means that there will be no money for walking and cycling. Bus fares will double.
For Aucklanders, they've taken away the regional fuel tax. Well, then how are we going to pay for the upkeep of our motorways and anything new? And then you're just saying over to you, ratepayers.
Privatise.
Overall, this tax expert
Get it
rates
from the rest of the
National's
country.
plan 3 out of 5.
Pretty much as I expected, nowhere near as ambitious in its scope as either the Greens or Te Pāti Māori.
This is a tax plan that a Labour Party could have released.
ACT argues the back pocket boost is more of a blip.
Oh, I think actually for most people it is loose change.
I'd say to David Seymour, $50 a fortnight is a very heavy pocket of loose change.
$25 a week. Not really. Actually, Nicola, sorry, Finance Minister, $25 a week is only 10 or 12 coins. It's actually not that heavy. Just quietly, it's not that heavy.
When's the last time she saw a coin?
Once again, in the name of protecting the squeezed middle.
Down country in Timaru, today's tax plan stopped Winston Peters
Look
in
at that,
his tracks.
that vibrant crowd.
Middle.
It's
Now,
the
I thought
tongue.
I was going to a health program.
That
Well,
annoys
Jim
me.
also heard that. Maybe
I don't know
on
why.
Jenny Craig's.
He says National's taking a gamble and basing its costings on 2 major variables.
It's all predicated on mass immigration
True.
and a house price bubble. Otherwise, none of those figures stack up.
Wellington voters calling it how they see it.
A lolly scramble, they're just trying to get people to vote for them.
Well, that's true for all political sides,
it's a good
isn't it?
step. Any extra money in people's pockets is going to help them.
National will be hoping it'll help them too. Mikey Sherman, One News.
Okay, Jess, is this just criticism politics as usual, or have National left themselves exposed with this announcement?
Well, what this announcement does is allows National to really go out there and sell this message. This is what you'll get. This is what's in it for you. Labor, on the other hand, is going to have to ask New Zealanders to look beyond what's in their back.
So she's saying what we've just been talking about. Labor's message needs to be what we're doing is better for the country. National's message is what we're doing is better for you, which is kind of the left versus the right in a nutshell, isn't it? It's like individualism and you and my rights and my money and my $6 versus helping your neighbour.
What's Labour's slogan?
I don't know, can't remember. Tell me.
In it for you.
Oh, in it for you. Yep, in it for you. Yeah,
You,
yeah.
not us.
Yeah,
not
true,
us.
actually. Yeah, true.
I, not we.
Yeah, true.
Back pocket and think about what people are going to lose, which is a harder political sell. There are some holes for Labor to dig into here. First of all, there are groups of people who will do better under Labor, those lower income families, for example. And there are some popular things that people will lose, those cheaper fares for public transport for people under 25, 2-year-olds getting free 20 hours early childhood education, for example. But it really comes down to big philosophical differences. National wants to help by giving people more money to help them in the cost of living crisis.
Your pocket.
Labor wants to help with more government policies to help people in the cost of living crisis. And it's really about who can make that sell to the voters.
This was a policy plan many people have been waiting for. How do you think the National Party leadership did today?
This was a big one for National. It was their big policy, a huge amount of money as well. And you could really feel the tension in the room today. There was a lot riding on this for them. Nicola Willis did a good job of really pushing that message over and over again of being cautious, of being sensible with spending. There's only one day left in this place before MPs go out on the campaign trail, and National MPs will be let loose to go out and try and sell this policy.
All right. There we go, son. Any chat you want to get to super quick? Bomber's in the green room, so we can bring him in and we can have a bit of a chat and focus on the housing question as well. But before we do that, anything that you want to throw out?
Yeah, maybe a couple of references to Nicola Willis's very relatable family night in trademark.
I can finally go out to the movies because I've got $80 more a week out of my $300,000 salary.
The fake laughing that they do when they're doing their little scripted casual chat was truly gross.
Yeah.
LOL DVD night from United Video or Video Easy. Again, when was the last time you had a DVD night?
Yeah.
And again, she's so out of touch, she thinks people can still rent DVDs. And with the pocket of coins that she's talking about as well. Yeah, just nonsense.
Let's move on and bring in from the working group, we have Martyn Bomber Bradbury joining us. Kia ora, Marty. Hi, mate.
Kia ora, comrades. How you doing?
Yeah, we're interesting. we're trying to mull this all over, and I think most people are seeing things like tax on internet gambling and some things as not being necessarily a bad idea, but still trying to burrow down into the overall picture going, but what else does this mean? We haven't yet kind of delved into the housing, the international housing, the 15% yet, but how about, seeing you've just joined us, we've looked at a couple of stories. You give us your initial thoughts on that, then we'll play this one more story about housing, and then we'll get into that as well. What do you think about the announcement today?
Oh, I think it's absolutely outrageous and it's disgusting. I've waited to see what National solution is. What is the great vision that the opposition, the main opposition party of New Zealand, is promoting, and what they've come up with is such a disgrace. It is I think it's obscene. I think it's so backward, and I think it's so brutal and stupid. And there are so many interconnecting parts that revolt me and disgust me. So please forgive me if I throw up a little bit in the back of my throat as I'm explaining all of this. Please forgive me. What we saw today, the headline is $250 a fortnight, and that's all they want you to look at. They just want you, I'm going to get $250 a fortnight, $250 a fortnight. What a load of crap. Minimum wage people are going to get $10 a week. People are on the average wage $25 a week. $250. They just want to look at the headline and not at the fine print. And what is who's going to benefit are rich landlords. They are the ones who are going to benefit most from this. And this is where the obscenity part comes in, because where they are getting the money to give these rich landlords this unbelievable tax cut, where they're getting the money, they're taking it out of the 20-hour free early childhood education for 2-year-olds, right? What kind of political party takes funding away from children so that their rich landlord tax mates get a better tax deal? Then they're taking money out of public transport for poor people, for young people, for beneficiaries who need that public transport discretion and that subsidy. Poor people spend about 20% of their bloody week-to-week pay on transport, just getting around. So public transport and reducing that is a way of putting money directly into poor people's pockets. They are taking this out. They are giving rich landlords a tax break by taking out public transport. And the third area they're taking the money out of is out of environmental programs that have been paid for by ratepayers and by road users to mitigate climate change. And I find that last part just repulsive. And the interconnecting part of it that makes it sickening is the real estate pimps have poured millions of dollars into donations into the National Party so that the National Party is going to remove the foreign buyers ban to inflate the house prices. That's the only economic plan they've got now, right? To just force prices to go back up so their foreign millionaire mates can buy a house, but domestic Kiwis are locked out of home ownership. We have the highest level, the lowest level of home ownership in 70 years. We're spending $1 million a day kettling beneficiaries into unsafe motels. We're locking generations out of home ownership, and we've got 100,000 homeless. I just, what was National's vision? And they released it today. And their vision is we're going to take off the poorest and most vulnerable, so rich landlords can get a bigger cut of the tax pie. I just think it's appalling and sickening.
I just hope that at some stage we get a clear understanding as to what you really think, Bomber, because, you know, I'm just
brother, I'm not holding back. I'm so disappointed. I'm so disappointed.
And when you think
big plan.
When you think about them and proselytizing family values and sort of, you know, these evangelicals and, you know, for the kids and all that kind of stuff, and as you say, then they're pulling money out of, you know, early childhood education, and that's it's revolting, it's repugnant. And as you say, they're trying to sell it as for the squeezed middle, but the ones that are going to make the most out of it through the bright line tax and that kind of stuff are their wealthy mates. So actually, even though the tax might not look like that, through some of the other changes to help fund the tax is going to help make the rich richer.
Yeah, I literally heard a piggy bank break during that announcement. Like, yeah, it's good marketing. I think it'll play in headlines, and people that'll make their judgment on who they're voting for just based on headlines, and they ignore the Greens and they'll just go with one of the two main parties. I think it'll work, and I think we'll be gnashing our teeth over it for months.
Unless they start listening to us.
I don't think it will work, and I don't think it will work for the following reason. People are hurting so much. They're looking for real solutions, and they're not stupid. They can see a scam when they smell one. This is just about robbing poor people to pay rich people. And I don't think New Zealanders are that easily. I don't think they're that gullible. I think they see through that self-interest, that venal, naked self-interest. They look at the real estate pimps pouring donations in, and lo and behold, they're also going to give, let's not forget, they're also going to give landlords the right to throw you out onto the street, right? I mean, they're giving landlords the right to throw you out on the street. They're giving them back all their tax breaks, and they're going to remove the foreign buyers ban so the prices go. I mean, it's a party of landlords. And I think that tenants and renters who are about to get smashed have now got every reason, who have felt quite apathetic because they look at the solutions from Labor. Oh, you're going to take GST off my banana. That's not helping me, man. That's not helping me. But when they look across and see what the alternative is, they've got every reason to vote in October.
Let me say this. This is what I think all political parties miss. If we're in a time of strife and a time we're struggling, and individually or as a community, what I want to see is meaningful difference. That's what I want to see in a political party. I want to see meaningful difference. Heather Duplessis-Allen in March last year mocked what Labor did by calling it what did she call it? The block of cheese cuts that Labor was doing. And that was $27 a week. $27 a week. She called it the block of cheese cuts and mocked it for being worthwhile or worthless. I hope to get to see what she references this one at, giving the lowest and poorest workers $10 a week. Marty, the other thing that we've already said is because they're doing this absolutely devious thing about talking about fortnights, this $26 a fortnight for pensioners, that's per person, so it's $13, so it's $6.50. So it's actually $6 a pensioner per week. Let's just and I'm furious, Marty, and I've already gone off in the show once, but you're joining us now, so I can give it to you again. Because the fucking mainstream media are repeating the fortnight numbers. They're talking about like so they're actually giving National free exposure of the narrative National's trying to sell, which is that $250. Sorry, up to $250, kind of like based on a true story. And so the mainstream media is actually going, okay, National, we'll put your talking points out there and we'll keep talking. Why aren't they saying $10 a week? 3 didn't do it, 1 didn't do it. They used a fortnight just like National did. It fucked me off, man.
I know what this budget this is. It's not the block of cheese. It's the Hoyts. It's the Hoyts tax cuts. It's enough for a pensioner's pass to the movies every fortnight.
No more DVDs.
The kids. Yeah, no more DVDs. We'll go to Hoyts. You had to pay for your own ice cream though, Nana. Just a ticket, and only on Tuesdays, and only with
But
your
it's
gold
very,
card.
they're very middle class worries, aren't they? They're middle class problems. How are we going to do date night this week? How are we going to do movie night? A lot of Kiwis are just holding on by their bloody fingertips. And it doesn't matter where you're at. You could be beneficiary, you could be working class, you could have a mortgage. I mean, people are having to find $700 a fortnight for their mortgage payments right now. You know, people are when they go to the supermarket, they feel mugged. Every single week you go in like bracing, oh my Lord, how much is it going to cost this week? And you're always shocked every single time you put that bloody petrol pump in and you go, oh my God, it's costing me so. The real hurt, the real pain is on so many people across society. And all National solution was let's make love to the landlords while renters and working people can go fuck themselves. I mean, it's just such an outrageous abuse of political power, and it's being sold to us as this is for the squeezed middle. There isn't going to be a middle after this, you know.
Hey, I think what we'll do is let's have a look at this clip, because I do want to talk specifically about the housing idea and especially around the 15% tax. So let's have a bit of a squiz at what News Hub and how they reported it tonight, and then we'll keep going on this to do specifically around housing.
Labor is calling the foreign buyers element of National's tax policy a voodoo money fantasy plan.
But as political reporter Amelia Wade explains, there are legitimate questions being raised about where the buyers are coming from and what it'll do to the housing market.
For sure.
Here in Auckland Central, almost 1 in 5 homes used to be sold to foreigners. But the red light on overseas buyers would be turned green if New Zealand gets a blue government.
Fantastic idea, and I don't know why it hasn't been done before.
New Zealand it's not for foreign interests.
I don't mind foreign investment in this country, as long as it's taxed.
And taxed they would be. Handsomely, in fact. National would only let foreigners buy homes over $2 million, and that'd be taxed 15%.
That other jurisdictions have taxes on foreign purchases at a range of levels. Vancouver, 20%, New South Wales, 8%.
Those are 2 of the most expensive places in the world for housing.
The 2 issues are not linked. What we're saying very clearly is that actually what you see when you see taxes or foreign buyer taxes put in place, we think that's a really good way to stop speculation.
National's entire tax plan depends on sucking $3 billion out of foreign buyers over 4 years.
Our modelling assumes fewer than 2,000 transactions will occur.
In 1 year, there were 4,200 homes sold for more than $2 million.
Half now have to go to foreigners.
Half of those to be to foreign buyers, and then for them to keep buying and buying and buying.
So it's a big chunk of the overall support for this programme. The reality is that we have no evidence to support that this money will turn up.
And if or when it does, Labor says it will drag up house prices, combined with National's promises of tax breaks for landlords and letting investors sell houses tax-free after 2 years instead of 10.
Then there comes to the housing market, which National will be pouring petrol on. They will lock first home buyers out.
Foreign buyers and immigration are 2 cornerstones of National's tax plan. And so, sure as the sun rises, Winston Peters rose again today and issued a slam statement saying it was a foreign buy-up, which doesn't stack up.
Are you not just giving Winston Peters another platform to run on?
What we're talking about here, and I think it's really important for you to understand, it's not political. We're actually here to deliver and
how patronising is that? You have to understand. Not political.
There's an election coming.
And Amelia, the party.
All right, there we go. That's what we want to do. Okay. So let's get into this. So some of the numbers. Let's just say 4,000 houses over $2 million sold. They want to sell 2,000 of those to foreign buyers. So what's going to happen is all those Kiwis who have the kind of income to do that, they're going to take a jump down. They're going to start buying the houses between 1.5 and 2 million when they get outbid by someone from Qatar. Then the people who are going to buy those are going to drop down to buy between 1 and 1.5 million. And then the people who are going to buy those are going to drop down. And then, of course, it's going to trickle down that old turn to the bottom, where the people who are at the bottom are going to struggle more and more and more to get into houses. On top of that, it also means those people who are coming in from Qatar, USA, Canada, England, whatever, are going to come in with pounds, sterling, push the prices up because they just want it because they want it. And it's all going to flow on in. This is their plan, Marty.
The only economic plan they have is to inflate house prices just the way John Key did. The secret to John Key's time and power was that every single year, people who had property, they were gaining more in their capital gains than they were from their actual salary. And you didn't care about children living in cars or state house tenants being thrown out for false meth tests or mass surveillance or any of the other nonsense that the national government got itself into. You didn't care because every single year, John delivered you more in the capital gains than you were earning, and you were secretly grateful, and you keep voting the bugger in. And that's National's secret to success. That's where Luxon wants to go. But what's most amazing is the level of propaganda and how clever it is. Here's what actually happened. What actually happened is National came out and said they are going to remove the foreign buyers ban. But we're not talking about that.
Yeah,
they've gone straight into we're going to tax these people and let's talk about the numbers and their magical. The tax thing is bullshit. It's the smokescreen. The fact is they're removing the foreign buyers ban. And this is going to be really problematic because it allows for foreign speculation in our marketplace to do exactly what you said, push up those house prices, create a fake and false sense of economic growth, and absolutely price another generation of New Zealanders out of living in their own homes. And it's just so venal, particularly when you connect it back to the real estate industry, who have been donating all this money into the National Party. I just think we are going to see a level of crony capitalism now that will absolutely astound us and put all of Labour's sins in just as childish mistakes. Whereas I think we're about to see a pathological level. I mean, last week you had Simeon Brown on Q&A singing the praises of intercity buses, and lo and behold, intercity buses were donor to the National Party. Then you had Chris Bishop out there pimping for that property deal. Oh, and lo and behold, the developer happens to be a donor for the National Party. I mean, there is a level of crony capitalism and privatization and public-private partnerships being lined up in the background, an orgy of free market capitalism that I just don't think we've seen the likes of in this country since Rogernomics.
You're annoying some people watching, Bomber. Pursuit says you got him gassed. He wants to break shit. So just be careful out there. Hey, just before you jump in, Chewy, the other thing I was going to throw in here is, where are these foreign buyers going to go? Obviously, they're going to go to Auckland because they're only going to go to places where there's plenty of houses worth more than $2 million. So they'll go to Auckland, a place where also they've just taken going to take the tax off fuel. They're going to put more pressure on the infrastructure. But the other place they'll go is fucking Queenstown and Central Otago. Now, for the person working in the bar, living in Wanaka at the moment, who's already struggling to find houses, what's going to happen to them? What's going to happen to all these fucking essential workers that we loved and clapped for? Oh, when COVID came, because they stayed and they delivered us our food. And now we're getting a government coming in going, but now foreign buyers are going to come in and buy up all the property where you need to live, and you can move to the outskirts and fuck you guys. But we'll give you $10 a week. Hey, that's pretty good. Sorry, Joe.
I was going to say, just when you talk about cronyism, right? What's Paula Bennett up to these days? She's a registered real estate agent who is shelling harder than anybody has shelled fundraising for the National Party. And she's using her real estate contacts to do that, and is funneling enormous amounts of donations. And then we have this that is going to benefit the industry that she nominally works in. It's just so bald-faced out there wearing high-vis going, look at me, but don't do anything about it. Like, you're talking about getting out there and breaking shit. I'm ready to flip over fucking cars and go, can't you see this? Does no one have a problem with this? So
there's one other part of this, Chewy, though, as well. It's also putting more fees and taxes on migrants coming to the country. So therefore, you're going to need to be wealthier to come to the country. So you're going to be rich to buy a house. You let in scot-free. No more, overseas investment office probably? No IOO. And you're going to have to pay more money to come to the country so the wealthy can afford it. And it's just going to be a cycle of wealthier more financially able people coming to New Zealand, buying houses, making it more difficult. Maybe not for the wealthy in New Zealand. They can still get, rather than their $2.8 million house, I'll have to settle for a $2.1 million house. But certainly the trickle down that will do is make it far more difficult for those at the bottom.
Now, if I took the time to shave my entire head and buy a blue suit, I could solve this, right? Because we don't want to scare away foreign investment into the country, right? We want to bring in money from overseas into New Zealand. That's good for us, right? But why would we funnel that money into unproductive assets? Why would we do it? The house is just going to sit there and produce nothing apart from capital gains for whoever buys it. Why can't you just make it that, hey, look, do you want to come into New Zealand and invest in a New Zealand industry, a New Zealand business? Someone that's making something. We're going to make it easy for you to do that. We're going to make sure that the carpet's rolled out for you. I don't have a fucking problem with that. But it's when we're buying and we're forcing to buy and sell old houses to each other at inflated rates and produce nothing. Like everything's invested in property because we've spent 30 years saying this is the safest way to invest your money. It just grows. You don't have to do anything. How much money did you make in your job last week? My garage made more than that. Get fucked. You know, this party of business, this party of numbers, it's just missing this completely because they've all fallen for it as well. They've got property portfolios out the arse and they will benefit from it directly. John Key sold his house that was just basically a hair away from just money laundering, you know? And
that's actually a really good point, Chewy. The point about the houses, you know, we all know that Luxon has 7 houses and they're saying like, we're going to get $80 a week. No, hang on. Bright line test gone, you know, changes to the rental opportunities. No. That's not all the benefit you're getting from what you're announcing today. It's not just $80 a week so you can take your kids to the movies. There's far more than that if you've got a portfolio as well.
It just stacks. It just stacks and stacks and stacks.
Yeah.
It's death by cuts, and the cuts are coming from you, and they're going to this guy because he gave National $500,000. Because we've got 2 problems there. We think that houses are a great investment, and we've stacked the deck to make that possible, and we're not doing enough to keep money out of politics. Nationalize it. Publicly funded.
Completely agree with you.
Another thing. Free buses for everyone wasn't the number that was bandied around 50 million a year. Everyone, just remove the barrier. It doesn't matter whether you're a kid, a pensioner, low income, whoever, you want to use public transport, you get on the bus. It's free. It's $50 million. The benefits are huge. That's it.
I think where things are going to come to a head will be 2nd or 3rd week of September. We have to open our books as part of our democratic process so that every political party going in to the election and the public themselves can see exactly where the state of accounts is for the government. I believe that what we will see in those numbers will be so extreme that you'll have almost sense of economic crisis hit New Zealand. All eyes globally are going to be on our books because we are going to be able to provide a level of insight into the Chinese economy that few other countries are going to be able to share publicly. And there's a lot of global focus on China at the moment because there is a real fear that they have gone into contraction economically and that things are actually a lot worse in China than we know. And what the books will show us is how steep a fall off in Chinese trade has happened and how steep the cost to our economy and how much exposure and overexposure the New Zealand economy has to China. And I think those numbers are going to be so bad that we'll see a run on the markets. I think people will suddenly start seeing their Kiwi saver getting the shit kicked out of it. And I think a sense of economic panic will come in. And I think that politically how it will play out is Labour will step up and say, we looked after you during a crisis, during the very last crisis, COVID. We stepped in, we looked after you, we got you through it. who do you trust to get you through this crisis? Do you trust us, or do you trust David Seymour and Chris Luxon? And I feel that when New Zealand falls over, they want someone to help them up. And I think that they could see that Grant Robinson and Chris Hipkins would help them up. Whereas I think their sense of David Seymour is that he'd take you while you were down. And he would say, get up, you lazy bastard.
Yeah, but that's implying, Bomber, that National can't sell the narrative that we're in this place because of Labour. So National needs to be in the place to sort out because we're here because of them.
The really quick response. No, and that's true. And if they can hook it on Labour, you're right, it'll play out that way. But I don't think that's the way it'll go down. If it's a Chinese shutdown, if the economy in China, if it's an external offshore thing, Labour won't get blamed for it. It'll be shit. This is what's happening in China. Our exposure to China was generated because of John Key's all our cows in one Beijing panic policy for 9 years, where they dairy intensified, where the banks came forward and said, we'll lend you money, but you have to use it to intensify. So all these farms got up to their balls in debt to the banks because they borrowed so much for the dairy intensification. And the problem with that all our cows in one Beijing panic was that when the Chinese mega farms came online, using our dairy stock that we sold them so cheaply, when the mega farms they won't need us as a supplier any longer. And so you've got these mega dairy farms coming on board on top of an economic slowdown in the Chinese middle class who aren't buying our stuff anymore. That won't go on Labour. It'll go on, that's China. And I think there'll be a sense of economic panic.
I hope you. Well, I don't hope you're right that that's going to happen. But if that does happen, I hope you're right, because remember, we have very short memories. People aren't very smart in any country, because like National was able to nail down this, 15-year-olds in school today are performing so badly under Labour. They're performing badly because of fucking National standards implemented by National that all the teachers said this is going to happen. So saying that they'll stick it on John Key, or it was under John Key's watch, National standards is what's given us these 15-year-olds underperforming now. Yet National's narrative enough has still been able to stick it to Labour. So I hope you're right that but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, I guess.
I think it's interesting, isn't it? Just going back to COVID, the left never makes and Labour never make the strong argument of, hey, we are where we are because of decisions we all collectively made and we all sacrificed with during the height of COVID, right? We've lost 3,200 New Zealanders to COVID. Now, if you compare us on size to any other bloody country in the world, it would have been about 11,000, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Now, Labour collectively looked after us all and saved us all and saved 7,000 lives, for Christ's sakes.
Yep.
And we so quickly forget that. And yes, we had to borrow a lot of money to look after everyone. Yes, it's caused all sorts of problems with crime because people who in an unequal society sacrificed unequally, and it's caused all sorts of disruptions. And yes, it's stressful, and yes, it's difficult, and yes, it created inflation, but it saved 7,000 lives. And I 100%. Think that Labour need to remind people that that's what we all agreed, and that's what we sacrificed for,
100%. We've said that numerous times on this show, Bomber. It's like the debt we're in today means we have more New Zealanders, and I'm okay with that payoff. Yeah, 100%.
Right, 100%. Absolutely, preach. Amen.
Hey, listen, we're gonna wrap up shortly. Unless there's anything else you specifically want to say about this, because we want to ask you about Ilam, seeing you were there last night, and just get a bit of a vibe for it. We saw the poll, the Taxpayers Union poll. We talked about it last night. Raf also talked about, I've got some secret polling that's been leaked to me. It looks a bit better. Are top done? They look done according to the Taxpayers Union poll. It doesn't look like a very likely chance.
I think that Labour supporters and Green supporters need to look at those numbers and see that their own candidates aren't going to get there. Sarah Pallett, I just don't think will win it. I don't think Mike will. But they could coalesce around one. They could coalesce around RAF and send a much clearer signal. So it's really up to those Labour and Green supporters who are voting for a candidate who won't win it. But they could swap votes, and so it gives. I think it gives for those who are paying attention and those who want to change, they see a blueprint there. I think it was really interesting. it was a debate where I think Ilam would be lucky to be served by all four of them. You know, they were all decent human beings who were making the step up to get into politics. There was a level of friction and aggression, and you just sort of talk to people afterwards. There's a lot of anger towards Labour over COVID and the lockdowns, and whether that's fair or unjustified, it's there. And what I found interesting was the Māori Party polling so well on the fringes. I mean, this is a party I think polled 0.2% in the 2020 election, polling 4%. There is something going on in the Māori electorate. I think that it's really unique, and we're going to see quite a surprise on election night. Labour's doing poorly out in some of these areas. There's going to be a real backlash, but National's not creaming it. National's not waltzing in. You know, there's still, I think the biggest thing about the debates and the polling so far is the high number of undecided. People are sitting on the sidelines going, I don't know who to vote for. It's like, this is bad, but this is worse. And so I think the attention to the debates this year around, I think, will be higher than ever before.
All right. Anything you add to that, Chewy?
Because we're going to have a blast on that one. Look, just anecdotally, right, in my little lefty echo chamber, I'm seeing a lot of chatter of people going, oh, I don't know who to vote for, Greens or Te Pāti Māori. And it is like Labour's not even being considered at this point. It is just like the Greens are doing great stuff, but they're doing, you know, they're well over the mark. Maybe my vote's better served with Te Pāti Māori because I like what they're doing. So I wonder how that's going to flow through to election day.
I think the strategy is. I think the strategy has got to be this. Look, we have to get some progress. We cannot. One of the problems we've had over the last 6 years is rather than increasing the capacity of the state and actually putting taxes on the rich, we've just played bureaucratic background games of moving the bureaucracy around in certain Rubik cubes. So we've got more identity now and more diversity being, you know, verbally and presented, and we've just gone, well, that'll be enough, when actually what we needed was not a bureaucratic shift in the background. We just need more schools, more hospitals, more actual infrastructure, and we need to tax it from the rich to be able to do it, right? But because for the last 6 years we haven't had the courage and the focus to be able to get that through, what we require, I think, this time around is a 100-day plan. People are hurting, and they're hurting right now. So there has to be we will get this done in the first 100 days of being sworn in. There has to be an immediacy, and and this is the only way you make it work in a democratic society. Before the professional managerial class consultants and the corporates get involved and make sure their interests are looked after, and before the self-serving bureaucrats and mandarins who want to build their next glass palace for their bureaucracy, before they get to involve and screw things over and make sure your plans never get passed, you have to hit them in that first 100 days. And so this change has to go through immediately. Where Labour is they've got to hold the middle. They've just got to hold the middle. Where progressives have got to think about is the Greens, and they've got to think Te Pāti Māori. And my argument for the Māori Party is John Tamahere. Because it is going to be his negotiating skills, I think, when he sits down with Chris Hipkins and goes, oh, yes, you are going to put a wealth tax in. Oh, yes, you are going to put a ghost tax. Oh, yes, you actually need to force Labour to be progressive. If you look at Mikey Savage, right? Michael Savage, everyone talks about Michael Savage. We all love Michael Savage. The truth about Michael Savage is he needed his socialist caucus to force him to be progressive and to start the welfare state. And so I think we're going to have to force Chippy to do it. And the reason why I'd say Māori Party over the Greens, bless the Greens. I love the Greens. I voted Green most of my adult life. But they've got all the offensive capacity of Moss. And they're just not staunch enough to force Labour into making changes, where I think the Māori Party are disruptors. And they have got no problems going in there and forcing Labour to do something progressive. And so that's why I think that the progressive vote has got to go with the Māori Party. Their tax policy is as close to socialism as we're going to get in this country. It really is. And I think that if he is able to get in there, what we'd be looking at is a Labour-led minority government with supplying confidence from the Māori Party. And the Māori Party would say, okay, well, these are the three bottom lines. We want GST off all food. We want this and we want this. And they've got to be broad enough policies that impact and benefit all working New Zealanders in this country. And if they're able to do that, then they go sit on the crossbenches. And if and policy will come to them and they'll vote on a policy platform. If the Māori Party are too crazy with their demands on policy, Labour can always go to National, right? I mean, National and Labour vote 70% of the time already. So it's not such a great leap of, I just think we'll get a different kind of MMP where more voices are involved in the decision making. And you know what? I think that would probably end up with a better quality democracy.
Really interesting, Marty. Hey, thanks for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, gentlemen. Always a pleasure.
We need to send you some gear. So at the moment, we've got a current merch drop where we've got two lots of things going on. One of them is a T-shirt or a hoodie that says, "If the left vote, the left wins," and that's in both green and red.
I'm going to get that.
Okay. Do you want a hoodie or do you want a T-shirt? We'll talk to you after.
Hoodie.
All right, so the hoodies are there is options here. I'm telling other people this because there's a promo code on tonight. So you can get a red one with you can get a red one with white print. You can get a red one with black print. You can get a green one with white print, or a green one with black print. If the left vote, the left wins. That's our special for leading up to the election. And then we've got just standard BHN gear as well. And if people,
that's amazing. And I'm going to have to wear one of those in the debates. That's so cool.
Brendan and Gareth have bought while we've been live streaming. So thanks to Brendan and Gareth for buying. Remember, if you do buy while we're live streaming, you get free delivery. And the promo code tonight is $10 a week. Bomber. That's the promo code for tonight. $10 a week.
Amazing.
Because they got to do it. And every night we give a promo code so people get free delivery if they purchase during the show. But of course, it's available all the way through it. And for people to know, we do our first order tomorrow night. So if you want to get it delivered to you next week, then get your order in before the end of tomorrow night's show, and you'll get it by next week. And Bomber will hook you up with one of those, so you can
awesome.
you can be involved and spread the message that if the left votes, the left will win. Because we all know there's more lefties than righties out there. It's been a pleasure, Bomber. I love having you on board, man.
Thank you so much, guys. And also just a big shout out to you guys for taking the time to actually explain to people what National just did there. Because I don't think, I mean, just looking at the shallow coverage that you guys had to look at just in the opening of the show, no one's pointing out just how obscene this bloody thing is and how it's robbing from the vulnerable to pay for rich landlords. And the fact that you took the time to actually explain to the punters what the bloody hell just happened. Sometimes I feel that we get mugged by the media who just don't explain what the actual ramifications of something are. The fact that you've taken the time to explain the National Party tax policy and did it in such a great way. I mean, hats off to you guys. Congratulations.
Thanks, man. And look, it's been popular. We've had one of our biggest live viewing audiences, of the time. So people are wanting it, Bomber. And this is the thing that we've talked about this before, that you see those right-wing sort of online independent medias having fucking literal advertising in the Herald, and you kind of go, you can see where their international dark money's coming from.
I saw that today.
I know, same. And now we're sitting here on the left trying to help and educate people as well. And it's just like, we can, if you buy a T-shirt, we might be able to stay for another night.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
All right, dude. It's been a pleasure. We're going to wrap up completely now, Chewy. So we'll just say goodbye with Bomber here as well. Hit that like button.
Yes, guys. Be well. Have a great week. Hooray.
Yeah. Thanks, Bomber, mate. All the best.
Thanks, bud.
All right. So is it
tangent time?
That was wicked, man. That was a lot of fun. And I know the chat's been going bananas, and I'm sorry, guys, we didn't get to all of them, but Bomber's like one of those, you pull the string and just let him go, and he's like, woo! So I wasn't going to interrupt that. Is there anything you want to get to though?
I want to put up one thing. I'll limit my tangent to one thing.
Okay.
It's a tweet that I saw today with a nice little graph of the tax rate promises.
Yep.
And you'll see there basically that up until what's that, about 80-90k, everyone that's making less than 90k at the moment, you'd be better off under Greens.
Right, gotcha. I see it. Yeah, there you go. So if people want to be selfish with your money, vote Green. There you go.
Yep.
And if you want to look after everyone else, vote Green. I don't know. I actually, to be honest, just to be clear, I still don't know who I'm voting for. Like, I haven't made that decision yet. So when I say vote Green, I'm saying it based on that, not based on what I'm going to. Where I'm
I'll
gonna vote
work on you.
I'll
work on you. It's fine.
I do think though, and we have talked about this before, that like I said tonight, I need to see a meaningful difference. If we're in times of trouble, it's the same from a personal point of view, or a public point of view, or a societal point of view, like tweaking around the edges in a crisis, financial crisis of $5 a week, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, most people would, I don't know, the silly thing to say, but most people would lose $5 a week in small change, down the back of the couch. It's not going to make a big difference. Now, it might be that we can't make a big difference financially, or it might be that the parties are just too cowardly to do it. And for me to get on board with someone and fully endorse them, I need to know that there's going to be a meaningful difference. And no party has done that yet. The Greens tax policy is the best meaningful difference, but no one's done it to a point where it's going to be like, oh yeah, pensioners can now afford food like they could 10 years ago. I mean, like I said, my house, and I'm lucky to have a house. So I said that once to a business investor, you're not lucky, you've worked for it. And I'm going, well, actually, I was born into a family that had a father who had a good income, and he was able to lend me the money for my first deposit. I didn't deserve that father. I didn't, I didn't have any right to have a father who earned good money and that kind of to lend me for my first deposit. You might say that I'm lucky. I've worked hard to keep it, but to buy it, I was lucky. It was purely based on the family I was in, and that had nothing to do with me. I totally just went off on a double tangent there and forgot what I was talking about. What was I talking about? I was talking about houses and money and you weren't listening. Lost,
we'll just go into the fact that Limp Bizkit predicted this. Did you know this?
No, but I saw them at Big Day Out. They were amazing.
Everything is fucked and everybody sucks.
Yes.
So Fred Durst, Prophet.
I saw them. He's a proper. I was actually a Limp Bizkit fan. Hang on, I'll talk like this. Hang on. There we go.
So was I, Pat.
Did you see them? I saw them at Big Day Out. It was the scariest night of my life.
I didn't go to that one.
Rammstein was on one stage, and Limp Bizkit was on the other stage, and we're all over watching Rammstein, and then everyone from the stage on the right wanted to come across and watch Limp Bizkit, so they all just crushed across. And I'd never experienced this before. I was lifted off my feet. I was pushed backwards 30 or 40 meters on a 45-degree angle. And when I was put back down on my feet, I was facing the back of the stadium. It just goes to, and if one person had gone down, it would have been an absolute disaster. And there was nothing I could do. Nothing I could do. I still listen to Limp Bizkit every now and again. My kids know it as well, because I'm a bit of a, that music that you do. Anyway, I had a point that I was going to say before, and I can't remember what it was, but anyway, doesn't matter. I'm still fired up.
This was a great show. A couple of people pointing out that it's probably a record for our live viewership, and I agree. So if you're still here, if you like what we did, hit the like button, come back tomorrow, tell people,
tell a friend,
buy a t-shirt. We want enough runway to get us to the election and do the debates and all the fun stuff that we've been talking about all year.
And get pissed on a debate night.
Pissed.
I think I'll have to go vodka, because vodka is like 0 calories, isn't it?
I don't know, but that sounds like tune in and see if Pat dies live on air.
So we might have to come back later in the night and do one of these shows. So I might have to measure it a little bit. We'll see what happens. All right, guys. Now we're going to go. Whatever that tangent was that I went on, I forgot about it. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you to Bomber for being a part of us as well. And we will be back again tomorrow. What day is it today? It's Wednesday.
It is Wednesday, my dude.
Okay, so tomorrow night we might even open up the Discord. And because we've got merch again now. And actually, speaking of Discord, Angus, if you're watching, or if you're going to watch tomorrow, whatever, who mentioned, who actually won a t-shirt off us last time we had merch, and then we didn't connect before we made the print. Angus, I've messaged you on Discord. Message me back and we'll sort you out some merch. We'll give away another one tomorrow night if we open the Discord, and we'll just do a chat about whatever. So join us tomorrow night. We'll have a chat about stuff. And thank you for being with us. We appreciate you all. Stay safe for the next 24 hours. Remember, get your orders in if you want to get your merch next week, because I'll be sending off an order tomorrow night straight after the show. And I think that's about us. All the best, team. Kia ora koutou. Whānau. We'll see you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. Hooroo.
Cheers, fam.